Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmommy.wordpress.com. Today I want to try to navigate around all of the things that are going on in the world right now, simply because I need a break from it. I've been addressing a lot of the things on Twitter and Instagram, but I've decided that for now I just want to do a video about homeschooling. So today I'm going to share with you 7 ludicrous arguments against homeschooling. Have you ever been given an argument against homeschooling that was so ludicrous that you couldn't even seem to make sense of it in your mind? I have had a lot of arguments presented to me against homeschooling like that. But what I wanted to share with you today are the 7 that I have been hearing the most often lately. They're not awesome. I was going to say awesome, but the most often lately. And it's funny because if you look at it in the context of what schools are going to look like when kids go back, all of this pandemic stuff, or, what schools were looking like now with a lot of the kids being at home, these arguments don't hold any water. So the first argument that I'm going to talk about is when they say that homeschooling will give kids an inferior education. Well, first of all, let me say that a lot of people who say that have no idea what the actual statistics about homeschooling are. Now, first of all, you might have some of the academics who say this, and then they will say that some study proves that homeschooled students do more poorly than those who go to brick and mortar school. I can't talk today. But they're not giving you the whole picture. They are not giving you the truth when they cite these statistics. These statistics are actually referring to distance learning students, which are not homeschool students, but a lot of the academics are kind of lumping them together with homeschool students. So when you hear of those statistics, they're not homeschoolers. If you look at the statistics for actual homeschoolers, studies show that on average, homeschool students outperform their peers regardless of their parents' level of education. It doesn't matter if their parents have a degree. It doesn't matter if they went to college at all. It doesn't matter if they just went to high school and earned their degree there. It doesn't matter. They still outperform their peers who are going to school and who are learning through licensed teachers. So the second argument against homeschooling, got to bring this one up. Socialization. Well, first of all, let's just think about socialization in present times. There's not a whole lot of socialization going on right now, is there? And when kids go back to school and they have all of these restrictions put on them from the CDC, they're not going to have a lot of socialization going on anyway. But, let's think about it. When you were a kid, how often did your teacher tell you while you were talking to one of your friends, you're not here to socialize? The fact is that kids don't need school to have friends. They can play with neighbor kids. They can play with kids who are in clubs. They can go to extracurricular activities. They can go to classes. They can go to youth group or to other church activities. You don't need friends, or you don't need to go to school in order for your kids to have friends. It just isn't necessary. And on top of that, I would say that it is really a bonus to not have your kids socializing at school, because you as the parent don't know who your child is socializing with. You don't know the values that they're learning from their friends. You don't know the morals that their friends are being brought up with. And let's face it, a lot of times those bad qualities on one child will rub off on another child. When your kids are home with you, yeah, they're going to have friends, but you are going to be able to see who it is that they are actually friends with. So the third argument against homeschooling: homeschoolers aren't going to get a taste of the real world. That one is particularly laughable to me, because a building where a child has to go for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, 36 weeks out of the year for 13 years, that is not the real world. They're literally living in a box for that amount of time. Homeschool kids are out and about in society with their parents or without their parents, but they are living in their community. They are doing things with their parents. They're doing things with their relatives. They're doing things with their friends. They're out going to the store, going to the bank, going to the car dealership. A lot of them help out with political campaigns with their parents. They are going to the actual creek instead of watching a PowerPoint presentation on something that has to do with biology. Homeschool students can actually go to the creek and not have to worry about the limitations of when that field trip is supposed to be coming up. They can literally pick up and go out into the real world anytime that they want. School students, on the other hand, do not have that. So if you look at it, it is school students, brick and mortar school students, who are not exposed to the real world. So the fourth ludicrous argument against homeschooling is that kids have to learn how to deal with adversity. I think it's a really sad statement to say that. You think it's important to send your kids to a brick and mortar school so that they can get bullied, so that they can get beat up, so that they can have their lunch money taken from them, or so that they can get picked on constantly? No. Adversity happens in so many different areas besides school. You don't need school for your kids to learn about adversity. Again, I am not able to speak today. You don't need school in order for your kids to learn about adversity. It happens everywhere. It happens at the playground. It can happen with their own friends. It can happen at the clubs that they're at. All of the areas that I discussed where they can meet friends and be able to socialize, yeah, all of those places come with adversity too. But just as with socialization, the parents are there and can keep a closer eye on what is happening. I'm sorry, but it's never a good idea to send a child to school just so that they can get bullied and learn about adversity. So the fifth ludicrous argument against homeschooling that I have heard recently is that homeschoolers will only learn a Christian worldview from their parents. First of all, not all homeschoolers are Christian. A lot of them are Christians, yes, not all of them. But the people who say this don't seem to worry about the fact that kids who are in public schools are also getting a religious worldview taught to them. They are getting a secular humanist worldview taught to them. And yes, it is a religion. It was declared a religion by the court system. So heaven forbid parents or children should be brought up with the morals that their parents have. I've said this in so many other videos, but I'm going to say it again. Our children do not belong to the state. Our children were given to us by God. It is up to us to decide what our children are going to learn and how they will be raised. Now, the sixth thing that I've heard, the sixth ludicrous argument, and this is actually the first time that I've heard this one, is that homeschooling is fascist. Yes, I've heard that it is fascist for parents to decide that they want to educate their children or to raise them the way that they choose or to teach them the things that they think are important. You know what I think is even worse? I think what is even worse are academics and elite who feel that they can dictate to you specifically where your children have to learn at, what they are going to learn, and they think that the state of all places should make those decisions for every single child. They're going to have the nerve to try to use some inflammatory term against homeschooling parents when they are the ones who are acting dictatorial in their stance. They want all children to be raised by the state. They want all children to be educated by the state. No. Homeschooling isn't fascist. Homeschooling is about freedom. And the seventh ludicrous argument that I've heard against homeschooling is that homeschooling is unfair because it's only for people of privilege. And that is another one that I just recently heard. And here's the thing. Homeschooling is not only for people of privilege. Homeschooling is a struggle for a lot of people. We ourselves, my family, we are not privileged. We are not wealthy. I struggle, and my husband struggle to pay the bills. We struggle to make sure that we're living frugal lifestyles so that we can get all the things that we need and, just make sure that we have food on the table and pay our bills on time. This is not about privilege. Homeschooling is about making a sacrifice for your children. Yeah, you know what? There are a lot of homeschooling families who do have privilege, but there are a lot of non-homeschooling families who also do. And the fact is that I'm tired of hearing about privilege. I really am. If you would see my lifestyle, you would see that we do not live in privilege. Again, this is about sacrifice. This is about loving your children and doing what's best for them. And I truly think that this is just one of those things that people use as an excuse because they don't want to homeschool. And I wish that I knew who said this, but there's a great quote that says, those who want to do something will find a way. Those who don't will find an excuse. And I think that that fits perfectly with this last argument against homeschooling. It's not about privilege. It's about love and sacrifice. And it's something that far more parents really could do if they thought about it. But unfortunately, not enough of them actually give it the time of day to think about it. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.